Hello, viewers. Welcome to another episode on the Little Fellas Sports Podcast. So today we are back with the SCG test preview. It's been a really interesting build-up to the SCG test right after the Boxing Day test win for India. A lot of issues, a lot of off-field issues, and we've also seen the return of David Warner. Justin Langer has just confirmed that David Warner is back in the side. So pretty interesting selections for India as well, because now Rohit has started hitting the ball well in the nets and he's lined up to come back into the test side as well. So a selection headache for India. So going into the SCG test, both sides have had their fair share of interesting moments on and off the field. So let's hope there's going to be an interesting test match coming up at the Sydney Cricket Ground. So today I've been joined by Sanket, Krikosi fan on Twitter, and Shreyas for this SCG preview. So before we go into the video, please do like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube content. We have a ton of content lined up in cricket and football and other sports. So Sanket, starting off with you. As I mentioned previously, the off-field issues are going to be the biggest headline, which will be preceding this test. What are your views on that, and how do you think the morale of Australia is going into the SCG test?
Well, yeah, I think as far as off-field issues are concerned, I think they're largely restricted to Indian players. So, yeah, I don't know how exactly they will be coping with it, but yeah, personally, I don't think it's that big a deal. Personally, uh, you know, there was there were question marks about how the Indian players would respond, after that gut wrenching defeat at Adelaide, where they were bowled out for 36 after being in control for majority of the Test match, and they responded superbly. So I think they'll be coping with it just fine. Uh, and yeah, with regards to Australia, I think well, yeah, I think as I said, I think personally, I think against issue for me is more about skills rather than morale. I don't think the Australian team will necessarily be down on morale. They've had their moments in the series. Our bowling attack is performing very well. And unlike in 2018, where we were probably struggling with both bat and ball, this time around it's just the batting that's been the problem. So there is some hope. India is still without Virat Kohli, so there's still got enough vulnerabilities in their team. But yeah, I think we've got to start making runs. Not no 200 plus scores throughout 3 innings at home. Not a very good look on the batting lineup. I think we've spoken enough about this in depth. So yeah, I think it's time for it's been a long break actually. Not just for the team, but even as fans, I think this has felt quite a long break because we don't generally have this kind of break after the Boxing Day Test match. And the Pakistan New Zealand Test match is going on. South Africa Sri Lanka Test match is already concluded. So before this test even starts, so it's a little weird. In this situation. And yeah, I think the break should obviously probably have helped the Australian players iron out some of the weaknesses, go back to the drawing board. Hopefully, the batsmen and come up with a better plans to rectify whatever they've been doing wrong for the last couple of test matches. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, as you said, it's definitely going to be a riveting test, given that we go into this test all square, and the winner of this test will definitely will definitely end up not losing the series. So it's very crucial for both sides to come out on top in this SCG test. So coming to Shreyas, we've had a fair share of off-field issues with the whole quarantine fiasco. We've had comments coming in from the Australian government representatives in Queensland, which has actually put a cloud over the fourth test itself. But it's also been resolved by Cricket Australia that India is fairly comfortable in traveling to Gabba and abiding by the quarantine rules in Queensland. So, how do you think this will affect the team's morale as a whole? And given that Rohit Sharma is coming back into the side, there's been talk of a few unwarranted sacrifices being made. So, how do you view that?
So first of all, these guys have dealt enough in these kind of fiascos. I mean, there's enough controversies when it comes to India and cricket, and I don't think it will be much of an impact to the Indian team, especially. So even though there are a lot of comments being passed, I mean, beyond those quarantine and those things, you see a lot of comments passed during because of their eating habits and such things. I mean, it's how the Indian public react generally. So there's not much surprise to. There won't be many surprises with regards to the morale of the players. So I think they'll be fairly good to go. So on the morale side, there's no issues, is what I feel. But with Rohit Sharma's inclusion in the squad, I don't know if it's a boon or a bane. Um, he might replace someone like a Mayank or Vihari. It's still unclear. Even no reporter has taken a firm stand on it yet. Gill, I think he has secured a spot and is doing well in the next two. So we'll have to wait and watch who exactly Rohit Sharma replaces. But I mean, it's clear that he will come back into the team. They've named him vice captain too. If you ask me, I would not take out Hanuma Vihari. He has done really well in the overseas in the past. Mayank too, but still uh, he's not looking in a good touch, is what I feel. So if at all Rohit Sharma has to replace somebody, I personally don't think there is any need for Rohit Sharma to replace someone. But it's clear now that he will. So in that case, I'd go with Mayank sitting out in the next 6 months. And with regards to the other slot, yeah, we can maybe talk about it later.
Yeah, that is definitely a fair assessment because if Rohit Sharma has to go out, then one of Mayank or Vihari has to be the one to take the axe. But I think we definitely lack a stroke maker in the middle order. So maybe pushing Shubman Gill down to 4 might not be a bad option, and in the end sacrificing Vihari for Rohit. So moving over to the probable 11s, we have some fairly high-profile entries into both squads. Rohit Sharma coming in as the vice captain into India, and David Warner is back for Australia. So out of the two openers, they definitely have one solid opener now. Sanket, you were very vocal about Warner's inclusion last game. You said that Warner's absence was really felt in the first two games. He is still the general consensus is he's still finding it little difficult to run quickly. So, do you think Warner is being rushed, and how do you see the other 10 people shaping up?
Yeah, based on whatever comments that were coming through from the Australian camp before this test, and on whatever we have been reading for the last few days, and what David Warner himself said, that David Warner said that he was ready to push the boundaries even if he's not fully fit. He was ready to play for the team because the team is obviously in a bit of a I wouldn't say crisis, but they're clearly in trouble at the moment, and they need an experienced player who can make an impact at the top of the order. And that was what the reports have been suggesting as well, that David Warner is probably not 100% fully fit yet, but there is a possibility that they might still pick him. Now, I don't think this would have happened without if the result had gone differently at MCG. So this is, I think, clearly a suggestion of panic from the Australian team camp. And yeah, personally, I'm not a big fan of it, to be honest, because I personally fully believe that you need to be fully fit to be starting any test match. And especially with somebody like David Warner, who's always been an extremely fit player. His game is heavily reliant on running quick singles, and he's also quite a dynamite in the field as well. So it will be difficult for him to adapt himself to this new avatar, where he probably won't be able to do much in the field. He probably won't be able to take those quick singles, and yeah, if he's not fully fit and there is any aggravation of his injury during the course of the match, then that might put him out for a longer period of time. So there are obviously risks that come with it. It's one that the team management are probably willing to take. But yeah, personally, I'm not a big fan of pushing playing injured players back into the 11. Even if it's David Warner. I just think this max of desperation from Australia is probably I think a huge psychological boost for India as well, that they're pretty much conceding that we've got absolutely no other options, and that even a half fit David Warner is desperately needed to beat India at home. So that's, I think, yeah, that's quite telling, I would say, from the point of view of Australian batting resources.
Yeah, and apart from that, you do not see any major changes from the other 10, is it?
Yeah, I think, yeah, Justin Lang has been talking about Will Pucovski. He's passed all the necessary protocols, concussion protocols. He's gone through, faced some really good fast bowling in the nets. Faced plenty of short deliveries. So I think those are the kind of protocols that you need to go through. Once a concussed player, and especially someone with, a prolonged history of concussion like Pucovski, making a comeback and making his debut rather in the test side and making a comeback from the concussion. Yeah, obviously there are question marks over his long-term health, but Justin Lang said today that he had consulted in an independent neurologist and also the team doctor, and he's passed all the necessary medical protocols to be fit and available for selection. So it's just a matter of whether he fits into the best 11 or not. And Justin Lang effectively said that there's absolutely no reason why he can't be picked. So that to me suggests that barring any dramatic last minute changes, he's probably set for a debut at Sydney. So whether he comes in, I think he'll come in at the top of the order as well. So I think you'll see a double change at the opening slot, and Matthew Wade will move down the order, to bat at his usual position at number 5, I guess. So I think it will probably be Travis Head who makes way. Cameron Green, scored some runs in the last test, and bowling will obviously be needed as well. If the SCG pitch is like the traditional SCG pitch, you need a fifth bowling option. So I think it's a fairly straightforward selection. If you ask me personally, I would have I would have personally kept Matthew Wade at top of the order, and I would have brought Will Pucovski in for Travis Head in the middle order as a straight swap in the middle order. And I just don't think that he should be opening at this stage of his career, given the kind of issues that he's gone through with the short ball. And even in the warm-up match against India, he was struggling against the delivery that was jagging back into the right hander. They were constantly targeting his front pad, and he was playing across it. So I think that for me actually is a bigger problem, from a technical point of view rather than the short ball. He's been hit, he's been concussed a couple of times by the short deliveries, but that's mostly said to be a freak occurrence, and he's generally considered a good player of the short delivery. But this, I think, weaknesses to the ball coming back that could spell trouble, especially if he opens the batting against something like this pre-Bumrah. So I personally prefer him, to start his career in a much easier comfort zone of a number 5 or number 6. After hopefully the top order have laid a better platform than what they've been doing the last couple of test matches. But yeah, it seems that he's going to open, and they've decided to throw him to the wills, kind of just like India did Shubman Gill in the last test. So yeah, I would happily take if it works out half as well as Gill did for India. So yeah, let's just wait and see.
Yeah, fair enough. With that being the analysis of the Australian 11 for this test, let's move on to how India might shape up at the SCG. Shreyas, we've talked about Rohit Sharma coming in. Apart from the Rohit Sharma change, do you expect any other personal changes for India?
Yeah, I mean, it requires, there's certainly one post change, right? I mean, Umesh Yadav goes out, so who comes in? It should either be Saini or Thakur. I don't think they've made the decision yet. Personally, if you ask me, I'd go with Navdeep Saini, just because he is a bit fast, and we see that the Australians struggled with a lot of pace and bounce in the middle overs, particularly in the middle order. Of course, now that Travis said, I mean, he looks to be out of the 11, but still I persist with Saini, and I mean he's been waiting in the wings for such a long time. So Saini, I think it should be a natural choice to replace Umesh. But if they pick Thakur, I mean it's understandable. He did make his test debut at home in 2019. Unfortunately, he went off after bowling 1.5 overs. So I don't know who they pick, but I don't think it should make that much of a difference. I mean, there are not reports. There is some discussion on picking Kuldeep Yadav with 3 spinners, but I don't know how that will pan out. We already have 2 quality spinners in Jadeja and Ashwin. I think that should suffice. What do you think, basically? You want Saini or Thakur or Kuldeep?
I'd probably prefer Saini because I think we've lacked the presence of Ishant Sharma in this bowling attack. Because I think at least at MCG, Ishant Sharma would have probably been the most effective bowler. So we need a tall bowler who can hit the deck hard. That is something that Australians have because all the three, Stark, Hazelwood, and Cummins, are all hit the deck 6 foot more bowlers who are actually hitting us at the back of length and actually causing problems outside off stump. So I think we need a tall bowler, and I think just for that factor you have to play Navdeep Saini. Thakur can swing
Yeah,
the
the
ball.
question,
SCG
yeah,
has a good like say record for swing, so maybe Thakur might be a good option, especially with the new ball. But it also depends on whether Thakur can control the swing and land it in the good areas and generate wicket taking balls. So that could be a
I
problem.
mean he's looked in good touch, but if Saini can control the line and length, he'd be a deadly bowler. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, both
Particularly line.
Thakur,
So if
yeah,
he
both
controls the
Thakur
line,
and
it will be a deadly bowler. Yeah.
yeah, sorry for interrupting. Both Thakur and Saini have had issues with the control.
Yeah.
Uh, Both offer different qualities. If you look at Thakur, he's predominantly a swing bowler, 135-ish. Saini is a 140-ish, hit the deck, who can bowl that mean short ball. So I think both are a little varied in their qualities. It has to be a on the spot call. I think on the morning you just have to decide based on the pitch. If it's slightly grassy, then I might be tempted to play Saini just for the extra bounce.
Yeah, I mean, our opinion. Let us see. Even I'd go with Saini.
Yeah. So with that done, that is about the 11th. So it's fairly straightforward changes, unless until there are some last minute injuries. I think it's a pretty settled lineup that will start for Australia and India with a couple of players coming in. Moving over to the player to watch out for this test. So Sanket, Australia, I'm not sure if you can say they have got their backs to their wall, but they are coming off a, a loss that they would have to really work on at the MCG. So who do you think is the player to watch out for at the SCG?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the batsman, one of the batsmen. I think, yeah, you can probably say David Warner because he's been rushed back from an injury to make an instant impact to the side. So yeah, I mean the pressure will be on him because he's probably not fully fit and he's been rushed back as some sort of a magic band-aid solution to the team's woes. So yeah, I think if David Warner can set a good platform at the top of the order, and I'm not saying that he has to get big hundreds, but even if he can get off to a good start, get a good solid 50 to 60 quick fire runs, upset the rhythm of the Indian bowlers because whoever they pick, two of their three fast bowlers will have probably a combined experience of 2 test matches. So apart from Bumrah, that's pretty inexperienced pace attack. So and having someone like David Warner top the order who can not just score runs, but he can also damage the confidence of the Indian bowlers. That would be vital. So yeah, I mean, as I said, I'm not a big fan of picking him while he's injured, but if he can make some runs and hopefully not aggravate his injury, then that might just turn out to be a masterstroke. So yeah, let's just hope that it goes well for us.
Yeah, fair enough. Definitely, if David Warner can provide those big runs at the top of the order and get Australia off to fast starts, then I think it also gives Steve Smith and Labuschagne a little bit of cushion to work with so that they can work into their innings and maybe grind the Indian bowling and get those 400, 500 totals which have been missing for Australia this series. Coming to Shreyas, we have Rohit Sharma coming in, and we've just had a very good performance from Ajinkya Rahane with the bat and as a captain. Ashwin is coming off a really good haul at the MCG as well. So, who do you think will be the player India will have to watch out for in this game?
If you ask me who is the player to watch out for, it is obviously Rohit Sharma since he's coming in. I think most of the Indian fans are waiting to see him perform. I don't know if he will, but at least he is one player to watch out for. He has his weakness certainly with the ball moving, but if we if he survives the spell or if he gets bat in the middle order, I think probably the SCG it will be a good batting wicket, and I expect him to perform if he negates the swing or he comes in late in the middle order. So that is one player to watch out for. And of course, Shubman Gill is another. He just had a brilliant start in the MCG test, and I hope he carries his form. And it's been long since I think, yeah, it's been a year since we saw India post a really big total. That is the last time we did it at home versus Bangladesh or someone. So it'd be nice to see if India crossed 400 at least once in this test match. So batting is the one thing that I'd like to see as excel.
Yeah, as you said, I think from the fans' point of view, Rohit Sharma coming into the side has had a lot of debate, but you have to give it up to the man for braving a 14-day quarantine and then coming all the way to Australia for just 2 tests. He could have just said, "I'll just sit the Australia series out, maybe train at the NCA for a couple of weeks, and then return afresh for the England series at home." But he's taken up the challenge and he's here for the 2 tests. So I think for that the man needs to be appreciated. Uh, we've just discussed about the teams. You've discussed about the pitch and how the match could pan out. Sanket, who would you like? What is your prediction for this game? I mean, there was some rain forecast as well. Now we're seeing that the rain forecast has been retracted by the Met Department, so we're expecting some good weather for cricket. How do you think this Test match could pan out?
Yeah, the weather is looking better, but it's still not completely clear, I believe. So, yeah, my prediction is actually I'm still going for a draw. I still think there will be enough play disrupted by the weather, which has generally been the case at the Sydney Cricket Ground for a number of years, and it's always been the most rain affected test in Australia. So yeah, I think the weather is gotten better, but it's the weather forecast can be quite volatile. A couple of days ago we were looking at a complete washout, so I would not bet on it. So I still think there's given the pitch is also likely to be much better to bat on than what we have seen in the last couple of test matches. I don't think three days would be enough for a result. The last couple of test matches, we had a 2.5 day test match and a 3.5 day test match. I think at Sydney you'll probably need at least probably 12 13 sessions to force a result. So yeah, I think unless we get a good 4.5 days of play, uh, which appears unlikely, I still think there's a good chance it could be a draw, unless the pitch is something drastically different to what we've been seeing at the SCG for the last few years due to all the rain that's been there in the build-up, and there is extra moisture that is seeped into the surface. Then yeah, and if you get a green top wicket, then yeah, that could be a completely different scenario altogether. But if it's a traditional SCG surface, then I think draw is probably the safe bet at the moment, given the forecast.
Okay. So Sanket has gone for a draw, and yeah, rightly so, because if rain plays a major part in this game, then it's really difficult for both sides to force a result. Shreyas, um, how do you think this Test match is going to pan out, given the weather conditions and how the 5 days at the SCG are going to be?
Yeah, mostly concur with both of you here. Uh, I still think even today morning I saw reports of thunder and rain at the Sydney Cricket Ground. So I expect rain to be there at least. I mean, as Sanket told, there'll be enough stoppage of play to disrupt the flow of the game. So unless a collapse or something like that happens on a traditional SCG wicket, I think it should be a draw. But let's see. I mean, we expected a totally different wicket at the Melbourne cricket ground, and we got a beautiful wicket that played into our hands. So let's wait and watch how the wicket would be at the SCG, and a lot depends on that actually, and the toss also. So I personally, if you ask me, I think it will be a draw. But let's see.
Okay. So that's about it from this episode. Big thanks to Sanket and Shreyas for taking the time and being a part of this episode today. Stay tuned, folks. Please do like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We will be doing a daily review of the Sydney Cricket Ground Test match with Sanket and one of the LSP members. So until then, stay tuned. Thanks and bye-bye.